What if Theon didn't betray Robb Stark? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Theon watches his father depart along with his sister. He questions who they intend to go after if not the Lannisters, but he already has an idea, and he doesn't like it one bit. He tells himself it makes no sense and will only lead to their deaths, but a part of him also knows that it is because he fears what the Ironborn will do to the north. They lack any strength at sea, and if the Iron Fleet attacks, there will be no way to beat them back. But there will also be no victory for either of them. Robb Stark will be completely overwhelmed by the Ironborn attack, at least for the first few weeks. He would need to send men back, or worse, have to call off his campaign entirely to protect the north. Meanwhile, Balon and Asha would be even more foolish if they think that this campaign will get them a kingdom. At best, they might hold the coastal regions for a time, but even without Moat Cailin, the Northmen will find a way back and strike at them. But while they drown in each other's blood, the Lannisters can regain the initiative, and Theon knows what will happen next. Robb's head will be beside his father's. No, if they are to have a chance in victory, Theon must kill this invasion at the cradle. He quickly writes a letter and sends a raven to Riverrun in Winterfell. This proves easy as Balon doesn't keep a maester at Pike, so no one keeps track of them. He warns of the invasion plans and how they intend to strike at the north, urging the Starks to fortify Moat Cailin and Deepwood Motte as best they can. At first, Robb is in disbelief when he gets this news and wonders if it's a Lannister ploy. But as he thinks back, he recalls how Balon had taken advantage of the chaos to wage his rebellion years ago. He must take it seriously. Word is sent to Lady Dustin in the north to gather her forces and prepare to defend Moat Cailin, while some mountain clans offer their aid to Deepwood Motte. Soon enough, the invasion begins with 3 strikes, just where Theon predicted. He has been charged with attacking Stony Shore, which Theon does. But as the first longships land on the shore, they begin raiding the nearby village. Theon hangs back, watching them arrive and gripping his bow tightly. For days, they have sailed up and down the coast, aiding whatever villages they come across. Many of them have already been evacuated, but a few stubborn holdouts remain there. But the loot these reavers find is middling at best. They are not taking castles stacked with gold and jewels, but just a few rings and rusted steel. So by the time they find their 5th village, the raiders are eager to charge in for anything that they can take. Theon urges his men deeper into the shore, knowing that they are hungry for all the loot they can find. However, what they don't know is that there are foes waiting for them beyond. As they reach the woods, horns suddenly blow and men cry out all around them. Ironborn look at one another in surprise, whirling around with their swords and axes ready, but have no idea who to use them on. That is, until the horsemen burst out from the trees. Sir Rodrik commands a mounted vanguard that smashes through their ranks. Reavers are sent flying just as the Northmen hit. But before they can reform, arrows whistle from the air and strike them down, only widening the gaps in their lines. Theon shouts orders, telling them to form up with their shields and create a circle. His warriors lack discipline, and their ranks fall into chaos. Within minutes, they are surrounded and hunkered behind their shields. Theon has his bow nocked and watches the lead riders as Sir Rodrik approaches.
I know more than you think, madman. I blooded my first blade dealing with your ravages, and I will gladly do so again. But my king is merciful. He knows you are here under the command of a fool with delusions of grandeur. We are here to forge a kingdom built on deception and forged by treachery. Why am I not surprised? Fitting for the Ironborn.
A few of the reavers roar and hiss defiantly, looking over at the Northmen, but remain trapped. Even Aeron can't think of a plan to get them out of there. Theon remains quiet, glancing at Rodrik, but the knight offers him a subtle wink.
However, my king is merciful, and he knows that some of you do not support this plan. Like your little prince. Lies. No, not lies.
He stands up and makes his way over to the Northmen. Behind him, his men jeer and curse him. They call him a craven and a traitor, but Theon ignores them and then whirls around.
You are a disgrace, my nephew, after what your father has done for you. For your people. And what has he done for me or my people? He sent me away as a hostage, as if I were a cow he didn't want. And what of the rest of you? He promised us wealth, glory, and victory. But what do we have to show for it? A few rusted rings and their old spears. Some whalebone trinkets and walrus tusk ornaments. The real gold is south, in Castle Rock, and the spices and gemstones in Lannisport. But my father is too craven to take them. Your father has learned, boy. He knows he cannot take the Lannisters. My father is a fool. He thinks the days when we terrorize the seas unchecked will come back because he raids a few fishmonger hovels. But those days are over. Not unless they fear us on both land and sea. And with the Northmen, they shall fear us.
Aye. As I mentioned,
King Robb is merciful. He promises that any man who pledges his sword to him now will be forgiven for their crimes so long as they sail south and help him seize the Westerlands. In exchange, the Ironborn shall be able to keep watch over castles and wealth they seize.
These words seemed to brighten up the Ironborn, who were looking desperate and angry just a moment ago. They were initially just staring at death and poverty, but that promise seems too good to be true, and Aaron is among those who think so.
The Greenlander king will never accept us, and King Balon will not accept such terms. You are half right, uncle. My father will never accept these terms because he cannot see reason. But King Robb has accepted the Ironborn in the past. He's accepted me. So what is it? Dying alongside my father in the old ways? Or the wealth of the South in the future with me?
The answer is clear for many Ironborn. They immediately raise their axes in the air and shout Theon and Robb's names. A few of them, especially the older ones, refuse. Among them is Aaron, who is swiftly beheaded by Sir Roderick. Dagmar Cleftjaw nearly joins them, but Theon manages to convince him to join after luring him away with the glory of seizing Castle Rock. Soon, the North gains its first naval fleet in ages with these 8 longships, but they must still consider the remaining Ironborn attacks before taking further action. Thankfully, it seems like Asha's attack was repelled. Although she has 4 times as many men as Theon, she rushes towards the seemingly undefended Deepwood Motte. But from the forest, clansmen stream out with their axes and spears. Although poorly equipped, they know the forests well and begin slaughtering the Ironborn en masse. Within the castle, the garrison is strengthened, and they cannot storm it. Instead, this attack force is driven back to sea, their army mauled where they sail right into Theon's fleet. At first, they think that help has arrived, but Theon's ships waste not in attacking them. Asha's longships are rammed and immobilized, allowing the Ironborn loyal to her brother and the Northmen he brought with them to arrest them. By the end, Asha is brought up in chains and curses Theon as a turncloak. However, those words don't seem to affect him. His sister was a stranger to him, and those words meant nothing. Instead, he makes the same offer he gives his men, and facing defeat in the north, many eagerly agree. They had seen the strength of the Northmen and realized that terrorizing the Westerlands might be more possible than Balon thinks. Many of those who refuse are executed, but others are imprisoned, including Asha, who Theon intends to use as a bargaining chip. With nearly 40 longships under their command, many Northmen suggest invading the Iron Islands, eager to repay them in kind for the chaos they've caused. But Theon advises patience. Though he has a fleet, he cannot guarantee their loyalty, and even if he were to risk a coup, he would need the iron fleet of his uncle, Victarion. However, while the North has managed to repel the attacks up north, the Neck is a different story. Here, Victarion had a sizable army, far more men than Lady Dustin could muster, and while Moat Cailin is normally a fortress, it is not built to halt an attack from the north. The garrison is defeated, and Lady Dustin's relief effort is beaten back. But while a stinging blow, it is not a crippling one, as Roose Bolton remains in the area, and with the remnants of Lady Dustin's army, Theon devises a plan. Roderick takes most of his remaining Northmen to reinforce the Dustin forces, while messages are sent to Howl and Reed to continuously harass the Ironborn garrison. While Victarion is a great warrior, he's not used to the fighting style of the Crannogmen, who raid and harass his army day and night. Bit by bit, they are whittled down by attrition, and it is there that Sir Roderick begins his attack. He strikes hard, hitting them with everything they've got. But in the distance, Theon's longships sail in and appear to be reinforcements. Seeing this, Victarion weakens his left flank to focus on beating back the Northmen in the north, just as Roose strikes from the south, and Theon's men quickly seize the Iron Fleet before rushing in to attack from the weakened left flank. As their defenders have been pulled out, Victarion cannot do anything as his men are overwhelmed. But like Asha, he is spared as a hostage, although it takes several men to restrain him. He is captured along with several other captains and prominent warriors, and they are forced to swear allegiances to Theon or risk losing command of their ships. Now, at last, the Northmen have their fleet. All that remains is attacking the Iron Islands itself and seizing control. Theon takes only his most trusted allies with him, leaving the rest of the fleet under the watchful eye of Roose Bolton, who has orders to murder them if they refuse. The Lord of the Dreadfort proves he is more than just talk by having several dissidents skinned alive. Meanwhile, back in the Iron Islands, Theon spends weeks traveling from port to port, castle to castle atop his longship. Asha and Victarion are both proudly on display on the deck while heralds announce Theon's victory. He talks about how he's managed to secure the aid of the North in an alliance to attack the rich Westerlands. He frames the invasion of the North as a foolish mistake by Balon, not only because it's attacking their only ally, but because of the poor crop of treasures they find. Some lords are convinced, the most notable of these being Roderick, the Reader of the House, Harlaw, who never saw much reason for this invasion in the first place. But now that they have joined the war, he reasons that allying with House Stark is their best course of action. House Blacktide soon follows, seeing nothing to gain from continuing this invasion and reasoning that creating an alliance is the only way to ensure the continued survival of the people. Others are less convinced, calling Theon a traitor and saying they only failed because of him. Some even suggest that he was hiding the treasure all for himself, but these claims are soon put to rest when Theon begins distributing the wealth that Victarion amassed over the years. He upends chests before captains and warriors, letting jewels and silver spill out into their hands. He visits lords in their castles and places gold and steel in their hands. For the peasants, he showers trinkets in the air and promises that there is much of that and more. Though Balon urges men to arrest his son, the decision is made. Many great houses soon crossed over to Theon's side. With the Harlaws and Blacktides by his side, Theon now seizes pike and surrounds it, forcing Balon to relinquish his throne to him. However, the Greyjoy only agrees because it gives him a chance to bide his time. However, Theon knows this, and secretly has Lord Blacktide arrest his father and send him off to Bear Island, where the Mormonts promise to keep him in custody. Without Balon, nothing stops Theon from at last declaring himself Lord of the Iron Islands and rallying his longships for another invasion. The sea is quiet beneath the pale morning sun. A veil of mist clings to the waves, stretching over the horizon like a shroud. Through the fog, longships glide silently toward the golden shores of the Westerlands. Their hulls are painted with salt, their sails black against the dawn, and each is filled with grim-eyed warriors gripping spears, axes, and oars. On the prow of the lead ship stands Victarion Greyjoy, his face streaked with salt water and old blood. Wind tugs at his greaves as he watches the coast of Case grow ever closer. Though he remains distrustful of his nephew, he still pledges himself to his cause, only to let him take part in the invasion. More importantly, Theon has won over many of his captains, and he cannot reject them without risking their loyalty. Now the Iron Fleet arrives at its first target, the town of Case.
Let the gold lions hear the roar of the sea. Strike hard and strike fast. No mercy, no delay.
The Ironborn shout their approval, the cries rolling across the sea like thunder. Dozens of longships press forward, slipping past the rocky shoals with deadly grace. On the bluffs above, a pair of sentries finally raise the alarm, but it's far too late. Case is still waking when the Ironborn make landfall. The first wave crashes into the harbor. Smoke curls upward as docked ships are set alight, sails blazing like banners of flame. Ironborn leap into the piers, axes swinging, and drive the defenders back into the streets. Steel clashes with steel. Blood slicks the stones, and the cries of the dying echo through the alleys. Asha Greyjoy strides through the chaos, a sword in her hands and a sneer on her face. She kicks over a fallen knight bearing the Lannister lion on his breastplate and climbs the steps to the castle keep, her boots leaving wet, red prints behind her.
Let them burn, and let them remember the price of arrogance.
Within the hour, Case is theirs. By midday, Kraken banners hang over the shattered ramparts. Loot is dragged to the shore, sacks of silver, barrels of spice, bolts of Lannister silk. The Ironborn move like a tide, taking what they want and burning what they leave. But unlike raids of the past, this time they hold fast. Asha posts guards. Victarion organizes patrols. The western coast becomes a staging ground for more. The next target is Fair Isle. The fleet sails swiftly and hard through the open sea. The waters around the island are treacherous, but the Ironborn know them well. When they arrive, the castles of Fair Castle try to mount a defense, but panic has already taken root. Refugees from Case spread tales of fire and salt, and the defenders fight with fear in their eyes. It takes 2 days, but Fair Isle falls. Theon watches from the cliffs as the gates splinter inward and the Ironborn flood the holdfast. He says nothing, only clasps his hands behind his back and breathes in the sea air. When the ravens fly, they carry news of Ironborn banners planted in western soil. The Gold Lions retreat. The Kraken advances. Neither his uncle nor his sister forgive him for his betrayal, and neither speaks to him, yet neither can oppose him either. Not with his success. As the wealth of the Westerlands flows in, both of their followers are more than satisfied, and their victory impresses them. They must admit it was cleverly done, especially when no Lannister knights come after them. Those are all too occupied dealing with Robb Stark, east, to risk battle with the Ironborn. This leaves them virtually unchecked. But the greatest blow is yet to come. Lannisport lies just below Castle Rock, arrogant, fat, and unprepared. Though it has a fleet, this is untested and has not fought a day in decades, not even during the Greyjoy Rebellion. Its people believed the Rock would protect them. That illusion ends under the light of a full moon. The longships drift in under the cover of darkness, their sails furled, their oars silent. Black shapes glide into the harbor like phantoms. The torches bloom. The fire dances on water. The first ships are aflame before the bells even begin to ring. The Ironborn descends like a shadow. Dockyards are stormed. Merchant ships are looted or scuttled. The harbor becomes a battlefield, choked with smoke and screams. Victarion swings his warhammer through the skull of a Lannister captain, while Asha leads a detachment towards the treasury vault. Theon enters the sept at the city's heart, where the altar to the Seven still glows with candlelight. He stands before it a moment, silent, then rips a candle from its stand and hurls it into the tapestry.
The Drowned God gave us salt and storm. The North gave us steel. And you gave us nothing.
By dawn, the Ironborn hold the harbor. Gold is heaped in their ships, silk and spices, swords and silver, all taken. Robb Stark's army has not even reached the gates of the Rock, yet the Westerlands already bleed.
I must admit, this was a well-thought-out strike. Let's see if Tywin Lannister can ship gold while choking on salt.
In the east, the Lannister host is shattered at Oxcross and leaves their heartland vulnerable. While the Ironborn seize the ports and coastal towns, Robb captures the inland castles and scatters whatever armies are sent his way. The only places the Ironborn don't manage to reach are some of the coastal castles, which pull back and fortify their holdings, and Castle Rock. The Lannister stronghold remains as impregnable as ever. Even as the Stark army arrives along the coast to reinforce them, they are completely unable to storm the castle. Though Tywin has taken most of the fighting men away, he maintains a strong garrison in his capital, and the castle is well supplied with mine shafts and hidden coves, letting them secretly ferry in supplies. At first, Theon wishes to lay siege to the castle and seize it and its gold stores. The wealth they gather there will provide them with a kingdom's ransom, on top of being a massive humiliation for the Old Lion. But Robb rejects this plan. He understands their siege is risky business, especially when his army numbers only 6,000 men. He plans to threaten the Lannister holdings and force Tywin to ride back to face him and find a place to ambush him. However, this plan is foiled not by the Lannisters, but by their allies, the Tullys, as Edmure gives battle to Tywin in the Red Fork and manages to beat him back. This prevents Tywin from falling into their trap, but instead sends him rushing back to King's Landing, where he receives word of Stannis' attack on the Blackwater. The Lannisters arrive just in time and manage to beat back Stannis' assault, driving the King of the Narrow Sea back to Dragonstone with his army in tatters. This gives the Lannisters a much-needed win, and more importantly, an alliance with the Tyrells, who are eager to marry into the royal family. But as they secure their victory, Robb rides back to meet with Theon to plan their next move. The king is in a rage at this sudden turn of events. It had completely upset his plan, and now leaves him at a crossroads.
Damn my uncle. I never told him to war with Tywin. What possessed him to give battle? We had everything set up, and now our preparations have gone to waste. Worse still, the Tyrells have now joined the fold. The situation is bleak, Robb, but we are not out of this fight yet. We still have our army, and our fleet. I have 30,000 swords at best, Theon. The Tyrells alone can raise 100,000. What am I to do against that? I hope you don't plan on surrendering. We've come too far for that, my friend.
The boy has the right of it, Your Grace. We've already crossed that bridge long ago. The time for peace is over. There is only victory or death.
How can there be victory against these odds?
Enough sulking, Your Grace. You are not some helpless pup in need of being coddled. You have an army, the North and the Riverlands. You have Sir Jaime and the Iron Fleet. Make use of those tools.
And the Westerlands. Tywin might claim victory, but we still squat in his homeland and hold his castles. We sack Lannisport. And yet Castle Rock remains out of our reach.
Perhaps not. I've been thinking about it, and I might have an idea.
We must consider it. The only path forward now is victory. The Lannisters will not accept anything less if we do not do something big.
The cliffs of Castle Rock loom high and cold against the overcast sky, its red walls carved into the face of a mountain like a monument to pride. Waves crash at its base, roaring as if in warning. For centuries, the rock has stood unconquered, untouched by the wars and storms of men. Until now. Robb Stark's banners flutter over the hills to the east. Thousands of Northmen stand ready among the golden fields, their armor dulled by road dust and war, eyes hard with purpose. Despite the obstacle before them, their spirits are high, and many are undeterred. They have defeated the Lannisters before. They can do it again. From the sea, Ironborn longships encircle the western coast, sails billowing like ravens' wings as they prepared for another strike. Many are fat with loot and laughing at the recent success. They instead continue to wait until the signal is given. The Ironborn begin a feigned assault, hurling firepots and siege hooks, clanging swords against shields as they charge the coastal curtain walls. Victarion commands from the prow of his ship, launching volley after volley toward the battlements. The Westerland's defenders pour into the sea-facing towers, scrambling to repel the fleet. From the east, Robb strikes with a force of 2,000 picked men. The bulk of his host waits behind him, hidden by the hills. Robb does not intend to win at the gate, only to draw their eyes. And it works. The garrison, already thinned by Tywin's retreat to the capital, splits its strength to halt this two-pronged assault. Though they pressure the castle, neither side can break the deadlock, and the battle lasts throughout the day. Robb doesn't intend to win this fight. Instead, he fights defensively, his men keeping their shields raised above their heads as they advance in close order while Victarion is careful not to risk his most important ships. This still keeps the attention of the garrison on him, and that is when the mountain clans strike. The few mountain clansmen who accepted Robb from clans Nori, Wool, and Flint secretly scale the cliffs and mountains to the rock. They find a blind spot in the defenses and begin hurrying to attack that point. This strategy allows them to reach the battlements unseen until screams echo from the interior of the rock as the clansmen emerge like ghosts from stone, slitting throats and setting fires. Confusion reigns. One moment the guards are looking to the sea. The next, they're fighting for their lives within the halls of their own keep. The gates shutter open a moment later as they pry open a bolt. Robb's men charge in. The fighting is brutal, a maze of stairwells and narrow halls where every step bleeds. The defenders are fierce, proud Lannister men who refuse to surrender their ancestral home. But they are leaderless, outnumbered, and unprepared. Robb fights in the center, sword flashing. At his side, the Blackfish cuts down a captain bearing the Lion's banner, his face grim and unrelenting. In the Great Hall, Theon Greyjoy plants the Kraken and Direwolf banner beside the Lannister lion and lets it fall to the ground. It is over by nightfall. Smoke lingers in the air as Robb stands atop the battlements, gazing across the ruined harbor of Lannisport below. His cloak is torn and bloody, but his eyes are bright. The rock is his. The seat of House Lannister, the pride of the West, has fallen for the first time in history. Tywin Lannister is not there to witness it, but word will reach him soon enough. Tywin Lannister reads the Raven's message in silence. Around him, that silence tightens like a noose. Cersei paces behind him, face pale. Kevin stands stiffly to the side. Even the Tyrells say nothing, watching Tywin's expression with careful eyes.
The rock has fallen.
No emotion, no rage, just words.
That's impossible. You said...
I said it was impregnable. I didn't say it was invincible. And yet, it is simply a castle like any other. The royal family is here. There were no valuable hostages gained. It is a gesture, and nothing more.
He sets the scroll down and clasps his hands, eyes drifting to the window. Far beyond, the western sky burns with sunset. He watches it with a stillness that unnerves even his closest allies. Behind him, they stare, speechless. The Tyrells exchange glances. Kevin and his bannermen try to echo his sentiments, but they all know the truth. It is a big deal, and so are the Tyrells. Outside, the bells toll in the city, but none ring louder than the silent sound of power slipping through Tywin's fingers. He had first lost their heir, who was now in Robb Stark's hands, and his castle now falls to him, too. With these humiliations, the image of Lannister invincibility soon follows. Robb sends out peace offerings, suggesting terms that will require them to reorganize the independence of the North and Iron Islands, as well as ceding territory to the Ironborn in the Westerlands. These are humiliating terms that Tywin refuses to accept and instead continues to fight. The people most eager to exploit this are the Tyrells. Although allied with the Lannisters, they see a rare opportunity to gain more concessions from Tywin. While Mace publicly expresses his sympathies to their house, he privately demands more and more from them. Seats on the small council, increased payments for the wedding, and Mace being showered with more honors. However, even the Westerlands bannermen begin to question their role. They had served Tywin for years out of fear of him, but now they've found a threat that they fear more, especially as Theon and Robb begin to send out terms. If they surrender to them and yield their castles, they will be treated well. A few even bend the knee to him and proclaim him as king in the north. All of this makes it more important for them to retake the Westerlands. Tywin despises the Fat Flower for this, but he sees no choice with Jaime continuing to remain a hostage in Riverrun. At the very least, the Tyrells will not be dissuaded by threats to execute him. Soon enough, they begin making preparations for an attack from the south to invade the Westerlands and retake it. Mace has 10,000 men prepared for the invasion. While they begin their strike, Tywin and Mace turn their attention to the wedding that will unite their houses. However, even this wedding turns into disaster as Joffrey mysteriously dies during the festivities and Sansa goes missing. But not long after, something stranger happens. Tywin Lannister dies in his tower, some say by the hands of Tyrion, who was accused of causing Joffrey's death. And even more remarkably, Arya Stark turns up in Riverrun, accompanied by the Hound, who ransoms her back to them. Robb and Catelyn are stunned by this news, but it also comes with a new revelation. The Lannisters now have no bargaining power. All this time, their power was an illusion. Meanwhile, Robb holds Castle Rock and Jaime Lannister. Rain patters on the slate roof of Castle Rock. The sky is iron gray, heavy with storm clouds. Inside the Great Hall, Robb Stark stands before his war council, cloaked in furs, darkened by damp. Beside him, Catelyn says nothing, her face tight and unreadable. Below them, on his knees, is Sir Jaime Lannister. His armor is tarnished, his hair longer than before, a few gray strands now streaking through the gold. Shackles bind his wrists, though he stands proud, chin lifted. Robb steps forward.
He's tried to escape. Twice. And with Tywin dead, the Lannisters are in no position to make demands. They have nothing we want, except more blood.
Let his head decorate these lion walls, your grace. You owe him that much, for your father and my sons.
Catelyn flinches slightly, but says nothing.
He's been a threat since the moment we captured him. He threw Bran from a tower. He killed his king. He'd kill me, given the chance. Yet I'm still here. You've had my sword and my tongue, both. Why hesitate now, boy? Because killing you makes peace impossible.
There is no peace. Only war until the lion is bled dry.
Lord Karstark speaks truly. Tywin was the brains of the Lannisters. With him, a deal may have been struck, but he is gone, as is Tyrion. This leaves only Cersei, who is half mad. There will be no making peace with her. If we come to any agreement, she will betray us on the morrow. Then let it be done.
Oh, I've waited for this.
2 Stark guards grab Jaime, forcing him upright. The Kingslayer doesn't struggle. As they drag him out into the rain-slicked courtyard, he chuckles quietly.
Tell my sister I died with my mouth shut.
Moments later, the clang of steel echoes through the rock. Robb brings his sword down, and a head bounces along the steps. Rickard Karstark's satisfied smile is the only celebration. Robb Stark stands still, staring at the empty space where Jaime knelt. The illusion is gone. There is no more bartering, no more prisoners. That night, the War Council reconvenes. A large map of the Westerlands lies spread across the table, black stones marking castles lost, red ones showing Tyrell gains. Randall Tarley's probing attacks have retaken Silverhill and Craghall. The Redwind fleet sweeps the western coast, sinking half a dozen Ironborn longships and pushing Victarion back toward Fair Island.
The fat flower sends roots, and we've no sunlight to burn them.
We've bled the lions, but the Tyrells are a forest, and a forest grows back. They have more swords than the Riverlands, the North and the Iron Islands combined, and that is when they are at full strength. Then we find someone who hates them more than we do.
Dawn.
Aye, Dawn. Prince Oberyn is dead, killed during Tyrion's trial. Their blood calls for vengeance, and the Martells have no love for the Reach. Not since the burning of the Dornish marches.
Their grievances with the Lannisters run deep. The death of Elia, I was there when it happened. If there was a chance of peace, it died when Sir Gregor bashed Oberyn's head upon the cobblestones.
And they hate the Lannisters. They've only tolerated this regime for peace, not loyalty. With Tywin dead, that peace is crumbling.
Dorne does not rush into wars. They wait behind desert walls, drinking wine and plotting. Theon, you will go to Sunspear. Take my mother with you. You'll go as emissaries of the King in the North and the Lord of the Iron Islands. Tell them that we know they were chaffed under Lannister rule, but we need not suffer any longer. Dorne may be free just as the rest of us.
Weeks later, a long column of riders crosses the Dornish marches beneath the crimson sun. Dornish outriders approach cautiously, but they do not attack. Instead, they escort the group towards Sunspear. The Palace of the Martells is a world away from the grey stone of the north or the salt-bitten shores of Pike. Orange trees grow in courtyards, water trickles through tilted fountains, and in the throne room of House Martell, Prince Doran waits with a blanket on his knees and a calculated look in his eyes.
We come not as beggars, but as partners.
Theon steps forward and tosses a golden Lannister coin at Doran's feet.
Tywin's gone. His legacy dies with him. Join us, and we'll carve up what's left.
Doran does not smile, but he listens. Outside the palace, banners of sun and spear begin to stir. It cannot come soon enough, as Tyrell reinforcements join Randall's army, and he soon launches a full-scale invasion of the Westerlands. Robb is caught on the back foot as 30,000 Reachmen stream through the passes and rivers and into the lush hills of the west. Randall Tarley is not like other lords and does not easily fall for any tricks. He advances cautiously, but decisively, having scouts secure the ground ahead and not getting sidetracked with guerrilla attacks. Robb himself leads several attacks against him, each meant to delay him. Greywind is always by his side, ripping through enemy soldiers and scaring horses. Together they manage to cause some delays, but these are not serious defeats, and Randall maintains iron discipline within his troops. Even the Ironborn are no match for him. As with the Redwind fleet, they are now facing off against an experienced navy that will not yield to them. Clashes become bloody and brutal slogs that test both sides' endurance. The Victarians' Iron Fleet has equally skilled sailors, and Asha manages to launch a series of daring raids. They cannot stop the invasion. But thankfully for them, Dorne does. The invasion gives them time to call their banners, and soon enough, Lords Fowler and Ironwood ride out with a host of 50,000 men. They strike straight to Horn Hill and place it under siege. At first, Randall ignores this and continues to press ahead, striking deeper into the Westerlands. To him, the success for the Reach far outvalues his house's victory. But when they press deeper into the marches and threaten the Reach itself, problems begin to arise, and the Tyrells panic as their forces are swept aside. The Ironborn even risk raids into the coast of the Reach, landing small raiding parties and striking at coastal towns just as they had done in the Westerlands. With most of their best troops fighting in the north and south, Mace makes a difficult decision to recall Randall Tarley from the Westerlands, giving the North and Ironborn control of the West. The war changes again. Where once the Westerlands burned, it is now the Reach's turn to suffer. As spring deepens, three forces descend upon the fertile kingdom that had thought itself untouchable. From the west, the Ironborn strike like sharks in the shallow waters. Asha Greyjoy leads a swift and merciless raiding campaign along the coastal towns of the Mandar. Longships glide past harbors by moonlight, disgorging reavers who set storehouses and ships ablaze before disappearing with gold and grain. Salt fills the air, and fear spreads faster than fire. Victarion himself takes the Iron Fleet and launches a series of lightning strikes against the Redwind fleet, hitting them from coastal inlets or hidden coves. This batters them and keeps them occupied while smaller squadrons threaten Old Town. From the south, the banners of Dorne rise with the desert sun. Lords Ironwood and Fowler press deeper into the marches. Horn Hill falls under siege, its great walls surrounded by sand-colored tents and siege towers bearing the sun and spear. As neither Randall nor Dickon is there to defend it, with the fall of their ordinary defense, other castles soon follow, and light-moving cavalry stream on ahead to strike at the lush fields. The Marcher bannermen fight hard, but the Dornish are relentless. They do not come merely to distract. They come to avenge Oberyn Martell's death and unseat the Tyrell's power. From the north, Robb Stark rides again. With Randall Tarley recalled, the young wolf leads the counteroffensive. The Northmen and Riverlords sweep through the undefended castle, reclaiming lands once taken from the Westerlands and cutting deep into the Reach's northernmost holdings. With Robb rides the Blackfish, who nips at Lord Randall's heels. Beside him rides Greywind, a ghost in the Waitfields who leaps up and knocks knights off their saddles and is followed by roving bands of Northmen. Each side strikes a different note of war, raids, sieges, and occupation. Together, they become a storm. In King's Landing, the mood has soured. Cersei Lannister, cloaked in black, sits at the small council table with a face carved from stone. The Reach is burning. The Lannisters are without their lord, and her son is dead. Mace Tyrell demands aid. His voice grows louder by the week, and yet Cersei recalls how Mace had taken advantage of the Westerland's weakness previously to force more concessions and happily returns the favor. She listens to his blustering with a smile, then says that she will gladly provide them with aid, provided the Reach pays the Crown's debts, recognizes Lannister claims in territory in the Riverlands and at Storm's End, and Cersei is named a member of the small council. Mace puffs up in indignation at what he sees as blackmail, but as Robb advances deeper, he inches ever closer to Highgarden and leaves his capital at risk. He sees no choice but to agree. So she proposes something unthinkable.
We will conscript men from the Crownlands and the Stormlands. The realm is at war. All must serve the Crown.
Conscriptions from the Stormlands, Crownlands, and even the remnants of Dorne. All who once bled for their lords are now called to bleed for the roses of Highgarden. Many who hoped the war would be over for them, or who just a year ago had served different lords. Many do not like this, and many do not want to serve. But word of this reaches Robb Stark and Theon Greyjoy. It is the final insult. The Iron Throne, once distant and crumbling, is now rearing its head not to defend its vassals, but to force others to do it for them. In the war tent at Ashmark, Robb draws a dagger across a map and carves a line through King's Landing.
We can't let this go on. We hold the west. Dorne holds the south. The Tyrells are overextended. But unless we do something now, they'll regroup. We can still call upon thousands more men.
Indeed. If they do reach the Stormlands like they say, then their numbers may swell by thousands more. That's not even bringing up the fact that we have yet to actually subdue the Reach.
Robb, you cannot hope to just defeat them with armies. You must defeat them on the throne as well. So long as the Lannisters hold the Iron Throne, they will dig their heels into it and refuse to relinquish it until they are all dead, or our forces are exhausted.
Then at this rate, our forces might be the ones who break first.
There is only one left. Stannis.
The King of the Narrow Sea had not been idle in these last few months. While he may have been defeated at the Blackwater, he has not yet relinquished his claim, or his army. He instead turned his attention to the Stormlands, gathering what few allies he could in the forest region. There he waged a guerrilla war from Storm's End, raiding the Lannister garrisons and striking at those who bent the knee. Stannis manages to win over a few of the houses and slowly rebuilds his army while wresting control of his home from the Iron Throne. It is slow going, but he is aided by Robb's war in the Westerlands and Reach, which allows him to operate with a near impunity beyond the garrison forces. But now that Cersei has issued a call that the Stormlanders must serve in the Reach, many are up in arms about this. They had already bent the knee, and many of them feel like the war is over for them. Not helping is the fact that many do not feel any particular loyalty towards Mace Tyrell or Cersei Lannister. Instead, they secretly offer their men to Stannis, who at least is one of them. From the woods and ruins, he launches small, precise strikes on the Crown forces. And as he begins to liberate areas around Storm's End, a rider appears from the Reach, where he receives word from Robb, offering their aid in exchange for an alliance. Stannis considers this, and consents to a meeting in the Rainwood.
You expect me to kneel to wolves and krakens? And snakes?
No, more than we wish to kneel to a stag. We offer our swords, not as vassals, as equals. We would ask that you recognize our independence. In return, you gain the throne, and the strength to hold it.
You ask me to forgive reavers, traitors, the Greyjoys.
We haven't ravaged your lands, Lord Stannis, nor do we intend to, unless you give us reason to.
Your uncle tried that once. Ask him how it turned out.
Stannis turns away, jaw clenched, but Davos Seaworth steps forward.
Your Grace, you have no ships, no allies, no coin. The court is corrupt. The realm is broken. But if you agree to this, you can sweep the game board clean and start anew.
Aye. Well, after 7 kingdoms, if I'm fortunate.
That may not be a bad thing, Your Grace. The lands that leave you, they are foreign.
different from the core territories with different gods, and may not accept the Lord of Light. The wolves hold the west, the krakens hold the sea, the martells will support whoever lets them get the reach. You take their support, and you take the Iron Throne. With fewer mouths to feed and fewer rebels to chain, you can focus on the core regions of your kingdom without having to worry about these other places.
Stannis falls quiet.
We were all wronged by the Iron Throne. My father, your brother, Oberyn Martell. And this is what's left of it. Cersei's lies and Tyrell greed. But you can be just.
It is not just justice you want, though. It is secession.
Is that so wrong? You've seen the Iron Throne and how rotted it is. My father died fighting for it. The Red Viper died trying to bring justice. You almost died for it. Aegon united the realm, but that was 3 centuries ago. The kingdom he built is crumbling, and we can be dragged down with it, or we can make something new.
Fine. The north is yours. The Iron Islands, too. So long as your swords do not threaten my realm. I want assurances. If we are to go back to the days of the old kingdoms, I will not have my ancient enemies raiding my land. I need oaths, hostages, and more.
He looks at Robb, Theon, and Sir Davos. Terms are negotiated. Asha Greyjoy will be handed over as a hostage, as will Edmure Tully. Shireen will be fostered in Winterfell. The Westerlands will be returned to the Seven Kingdoms, most of it at least. Case, Fair Isles, and other coastal towns are ceded to Theon, but Castle Rock and Lannisport will remain under royal control. All agree to sign treaties and make alliances. At last, things seem to be calming down, and Stannis nods.
But if you break that pact, I will burn your cities.
Then don't give us a reason to.
From the Reach, they report the strangest development. All the armies simply leave. Robb withdraws his forces, and the River Lords soon follow, and even the Iron Fleet leaves their shores. Only the Dornishmen remain, but their forces are much reduced, with half of their army crossing over to the Stormlands with Stannis to join the coming assault. The rest, along with a token force of Northmen under the Karstarks, remain to terrorize the Reach and to keep them from joining forces with the Lannisters in King's Landing. Weeks later, the gold of King's Landing gleams under the dying sun, its domes and towers casting long shadows over the Blackwater Bay. From the walls, the guards see what they have long feared: 3 armies converging on the city from every road and shoreline. The Tyrells have vanished. The Red Keep no longer commands the respect it once did. The Lion banners flap, but now they look tattered, desperate. Outside the city, the banners of the North, Dorne, and the Baratheons flutter together in the wind. Cersei Lannister watches from her balcony. She has not slept. Below her, the city stirs like a dying animal. Starving refugees clog the alleys, and the Goldcloaks refuse to patrol. Robb Stark rides at the head of its host. Grey Wind pads beside him, growling low at the sight of the city's gates. At his side, Theon Greyjoy studies the harbor, where Ironborn longships blockade the bay. Dornish spearmen begin lining the southern roads, and Baratheon soldiers, ragged but fierce, gather under the banner of the crowned stag. The siege breaks with thunder. Ironborn ships launch firepots over the bay wall, setting Lannister vessels ablaze. The smoke from the docks rises like storm clouds. Dornish scorpions unleash volleys at the city's towers, while Baratheon sappers begin to undermine the gates. Robb leads the first charge at the Mudgate. Northern warhorns blare as 1,000 shields crash into the barricades. The defenders fight back, but their coordination is gone. The chain of command is broken. Inside the city, Goldcloaks begin to abandon their posts. Some open side gates to let the Dornish in, others simply flee. The Lannister bannermen put up more of a fight. Under the lords and experienced knights, they fight with effective coordination, from small groups that slowly push back the advancing forces at some point. But the fight spreads from street to street, leaving the alleys in ash and blood slick across the cobblestone. Theon and Victarion lead Ironborn up the riverbank, where they scale the lower walls using grapples and climb into the fish market. They strike the Lannister defenders from behind, creating panic inside the city. The final blow comes at the Dragon Gate. Stannis himself leads the assault. Mounted knights batter the gate until it cracks, and once it does, Stormlanders flood through. Fighting spills into the streets. Blood runs down the cobbled alleys. Bodies litter the steps of the Sept of Baelor. Cersei sits on the Iron Throne. The doors are already buckling from pounding fists and steel. She does not weep. She has a hidden vial of poison beneath her sleeve. Tommen hides behind the throne, trembling. The doors burst open. Robb Stark strides in, Grey Wind behind him, flanked by armored Northmen. Theon enters next, then Stannis. Finally, Prince Doran's heralds. Cersei stands tall, facing them.
So it ends with wolves and krakens and a stag without a kingdom.
It ends with justice.
Cersei lifts the vial, but Grey Wind growls, stepping forward. She hesitates. Tommen begins to cry.
This city has seen enough death.
Cersei doesn't answer, but lifts the vial and upends it into her mouth. She then slumps on the throne. The vial falls from her hand and shatters on the floor as blood trickles from her lips. The bells toll, not for surrender, but for silence, for peace. Banners of the wolf, the kraken, the stag, and the sun and spear fly from the battlements. Lannister banners are dragged down and burned. The gates are opened wide. Refugees emerge from hiding. The war is over. Robb stands atop the ramparts with Theon and Stannis beside him. And so, Stannis takes his place on the Iron Throne, while Robb returns north, formally proclaimed king in the north. Theon is made king of the Isles, Stannis the king of storms, and Doran the Prince of Dorne. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.